everyone.
Hello, Namaskar.
Hello, madam. How are you?
Yeah, I think we are online.
Yeah,
Yeah, so hello everyone and welcome to this webinar on the sustainability. And we have with us Mr. Ashish Gupta, who is heading sustainability at Hindustan Petroleum.
BPCL,
And
Bharat Petroleum, madam.
Acha, Bharat, I'm so sorry, my bad.
No problem.
BPCL, Bharat Petroleum. And we have with us Mr. Anil Gupta, who is moderating the session, and our sustainability board. And Rucha also is there, and our sustainability board, Rangoli, and entire team. Welcome all of you. Recently, Mr. Ashish and me were together in one of the webinar talking about the sustainability, and we met on online only. Actually, he is a neighbor to us, but then also we met online, and then a lot of things are being actually done, and in energy sector, infrastructure sector also. So we were discussing all about that. What is the level of sustainability being actually taken it up at energy sector? And one of the best examples he has given. So then I requested Ashishji, why don't you share your knowledge and your actually what you all are doing in sustainability in GHG emissions, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, how you are calculating and what is the impact and how to make those things carbon neutral, what initiatives are being taken at BPCL, and that will be set an examples and motivation to all the members. So we welcome Ashish ji you here at our institute, and looking forward to learn a lot from you, the best practices which you are actually performing and initiatives which you are taking at BPCL, that is really taking a lot and betterment of the nation and at world also. So however, lot of things we are also doing at institute level, being our sustainability reporting standard board as pioneer in the world, and in coordinating with regulators for the standards. We already have two standards, that is disclosure standard and GHG emission. So that is SSAE, which are already available. So again, on S1 and S2, we have made the comparison with BRSR. We have actually done what are the gaps recently. At present, we are also working very hard on publication on this, because it is becoming
I think, madam, your connection some problem. It seems some network problem is there.
in this direction. So again, we in front of social audits and social stock exchange, we have set an example in the world by setting up and supporting to the SEBI for social stock exchange, doing outreach programs, connecting with NGOs, and also developing the social audit standards. So a lot of things are being done in this sector also by Sustainability Reporting Standard Board. At present, our 22nd course or certificate course on BRSR is going on. There 200 members are participated. Very soon we'll be having the next exam also. More than 1,000 members are certified with this BRSR learnings. So with this, friends, we have already started lot of webinars, and the series of webinars are going on. So let us connect with all. Let us have our India sustainable one, and very soon the carbon neutral. With these words, I welcome all of you, Ashish ji, Anil ji, Rucha, and all the participants for wonderful session on this evening. And welcome all of you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you for such a kind deliberations. I believe I'm thankful to you for making me moderator of this wonderful session and giving me an opportunity to meet Ashish Gupta ji, who is such a great professional in this field. And I am also thankful to Vice Chairman in absentia for giving me this opportunity. And Now I introduce Ms. Rucha Thakkar to kindly say something about Ashish Gupta ji. I believe Madam has done, Chairperson has already done the job, but I still welcome Rucha Thakkar ji to give his introduction about Ashish Gupta. Rucha
Thank you,
Thakkar.
Mr. Anil. Thank you. A warm welcome to each and every participant and Preeti ma'am. I'm Rucha Thakkar, your today's moderator for the webinar. Well, so as we believe, educating chartered accountants on calculations and accounting is really a task. On a lighter note. But yes, evolving with time when it comes to a specialized subject or a topic. We have to learn new accounting methodologies from the subject expert. And so today we have with us a renowned speaker for the webinar, Mr. Ashish Gupta. Mr. Gupta is DGM in Corporate HSSE at BPCL, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. Mr. Gupta is a mechanical engineer and has pursued MBA as well. He has got more than 36 years of experience with BPCL, environment and safety professional handling sustainability, SDGs, water, waste, co-processing and environment and initiatives. Mr. Gupta's area of expertise include the publishing of sustainability report for BPCL as per GRI standards, business responsibility report, study of carbon sequestration, zero waste to landfill certification, GHG inventory calculation of a location, reduction of single use plastic and hazardous as well as non hazardous waste, implementation of renewable energy projects and energy efficient lights, rainwater harvesting, coordination with CPCB, and publishing of manuals on waste management and carbon sequestration. Mr. Gupta has also got several professional certification courses as well as diploma courses from various institutions across India in the field of business sustainability and environmental law, including NEBOSH. He is also associated with IEMA and Tribological Society of India. He has been a lead auditor as per ISO 45001 and 14001 and also PESO certified engineer. With this not so long but enriched introduction, I thank you, Mr. Gupta, for being part of this webinar. Looking forward to an insightful session, I would like to now hand over this session to Mr. Gupta. The virtual floor is all yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Rucha. Thank you very much, giving such a long, elaborated detail about me. And no, but I thank Preeti Madam, no, who just narrated that we recently met in one of the webinar. And I mean, we just discussed, no, casually that no, we can have a session about uh, basically about the GHG accounting, and that will be good for the no chartered accountants. But I was not sure that within next day, no, I'll get an invite to come over here and then no share whatever that we have done with respect to this. In fact, to be very frank, I thank Preeti Madam for doing it and taking this that fast. No, I think this is something commendable. And ensuring that no people those who are in a different field would also know, because I think chartered accountancy, what I felt is mainly about the financial accounting and all that, but it seems as if it is not. And you are also getting into the field of non-financial accounting now, right? Because sustainability is nothing but non-financial accounting, right? So taking it forward, and the topic of today, now what we say is basically about GHG accounting, right? So it is a subject of accounting, but without not taking into the financial matters into fold, right? So no, to take it forward, I'll start showing my presentation. I made a small presentation. I hope going through that, it will be more clearer to you. How do we carry out the accounting of GHG emissions, and what is GHG basically when we talk about, right? GHG is nothing but greenhouse gases, right? The gases which gets generated when we are burning up fuel. So those gases are mainly supposed to be greenhouse gases. It is better to show with the presentation because then it will become more clearer to you. Uh, Please tell me now once you see the presentation, and somebody has to say yes or no also now. If I say because I won't be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
see the
So
screen later on.
Rucha
Rucha,
and
please.
Anilji, please, if
Okay.
you can coordinate, that will be really helpful to Ashish ji,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Sure.
webinar
Right.
mode, it becomes very difficult actually to understand.
Right. Right.
So
Yes,
please
sir. The
confirm.
screen
Now,
will
if you
be.
Yeah,
can
it is
confirm to
visible.
me, is it
Yeah,
visible? Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
visible.
So
If you can
I,
make it on presentation mode, yeah,
yeah, I
perfect.
have done that, madam. Take a second. I have to. Okay. Now, first of all, no, I'll welcome all the people, those who have joined. And I was being told there are something like 700 people, those who are there in this group as of now. So welcome you all, no, to go through this presentation of mine, basically about the GHG accounting. See, what I have done is I have now put my topic in such a manner first to understand what are the emissions, what is the GHG emissions, and then to understand now how it is happening in the world, and then what are the factors, how it is being calculated. I have also related that with our company Bharat Petroleum. How we have calculated what are the figures which are coming up and what is our next future action. No, as Preeti Madam has mentioned, no, what BPCL is taking the initiative. I think something about that also I will not try to narrate it here. Okay.
Right.
So now
Good.
coming to GHG emissions. Can you see this screen? No,
We are saying, sir, it is very good because during
it's
calculation
visible.
and all kind of things when we are waiting
Okay.
BRSR report or ESG reporting, so
Yeah.
all
I
the
will.
all the
I
items
will.
seems to be there.
I will connect that also with the BRSR report. See,
Right, sir.
actually, my understanding or what I understand, I mean, the way I have seen these reporting and all that is, as you are aware, earlier it used to be business. It needs to be called as business responsibility report, right?
Right,
The difference between the BRR and BRSR, which has started from this year onwards, and which is going to get the assurance from next year onwards for 150 companies, now as per their as per the market cap, right? So the 150 companies are supposed to get their BRSR report audited or with assurance, reasonable assurance.
right,
Correct. Now the difference between the two is in the current reporting, there are figures or the values with respect to water, waste, and emissions and energy, which are being projected or published or disclosed by the
by the
industry,
company.
by the companies or industry. Whereas
Right,
in the BRR report, it was more subjective in nature, where we used to give the details of the actions which are being taken against 9 principles.
right,
So here and there, both the places principles were 9 only, but there are certain modifications and things are being done with respect to the principles, which are known as per NGRBC guidelines, right?
right,
As per NGRBC guideline, those 9 principles have been modified to a certain extent, where each principle is actually talking about environment, social, and governance criteria only. Earlier also it was there, but now also it is there. The major difference is with respect to the quantitative data which is being given in the BRSR report.
right,
Right. So this is one difference which has come up and which is also being supposed to be audited or assured or verified by the third party.
correct.
Right, BRSR report, whereas BRR report was not used to get audited because the financial auditors or statutory auditors, what they used to do for a company was mainly with respect to the financial auditing, not that particular portion of that chapter, what we used to add there in the annual report.
Correct.
So these
They
are
were
the
not
two,
measurable actually, sir.
sorry?
Because they were not measurable.
Because those were not measurable and there the requirement was not there with respect to the data. And even if somebody used to give the data, it was not verified by the person. Anything which has been put there was a voluntary disclosure.
Right,
Now, I would also tell you one more report, like you would have heard of sustainability report. The sustainability report is it's again a voluntary non-financial report, which is also known as ESG reporting of a company. ESG is environment, social
right,
governance.
right, sir. Right, sir. That is also in vogue, actually.
Yeah. It is also in vogue. This is also as per there are various standards against which this report is being made. We as a company, Bharat Petroleum, or otherwise, if you look at 70 or 80% of across world, people are following GRI standards, right? GRI also, it has happened that GRI, matured in a different manner. It started from GRI 1, 2, 3. Now it is 4. After 4, it has become standard now. And every year, or maybe after 2 or 3 years, the addition is changing. Presently, it is GRI Standards 2021 edition. Okay. Which is also, but typically in our sector, it is known as oil and gas sector. And there is a standard which has also been come out by GRI, which is known as OG 11, Oil and Gas Sector 11 standard, right?
Okay.
So it is a sector specific standard which is supposed to be met, but otherwise it is basically GRI standards. That is how company is meeting our requirements. We are following this standard. We are also following SDG goals. I mean, there is a mapping of SDG goals in our reporting. If you want to see our report, you can go to website of Bharat Petroleum, bharatpetroleum.in, and under sustainability section, you can see our sustainability report. Similarly, any company you want to see, put that, let's say Tata sustainability report for whichever year you put it, and you will get on the public website, because these reports are generally put on the websites.
Correct, sir.
So you can see that report, you can read that report and understand what all is supposed to be reported there. But the problem with these reporting are that these are voluntary reports. Okay? It is not required, it is not necessary. The necessity comes with the BRSR report only, which is a regulation. Sustainability report is nothing but a voluntary report of ESG reporting of any company, which is again a non-financial reporting. And there are certain companies which are getting it assured and certain which are not. But assurance only gives the credibility to the report, and we are getting our report assured. Okay,
Right.
As Bharat Petroleum, I am telling you, we are getting our report assured, and reporting is being assured as per ISA 3000 and AA 1000 AS standard.
8,002.
Right. Now, what is ISA 3000 is, this is more about the financial verification of a report, because here, like any chartered accountant who does the verification of the finance or the figures or the quantity, that is why we also take it as per ISA 3000. And secondly, it is as per AA 1000 AS, which is actually accounting standard, and it basically talks about sustainability reporting assurance. Right. This can be done by any person who has been approved by, let's say, GRI, or IPCC, or the people, those who are having this kind of a certification, they can assure that report. But as a company, as BPCL as a company, we are not only going for 1000 AS, but we are also going for ISA 3000 also, because we ensure that our whatever that we are reporting in public domain, the assurance or the credibility of our report is better.
Good.
I hope you understand what I am trying to say here.
We understand that, sir. We understand that very well.
Right. Now coming to emissions. Now, why emissions or why GHG accounting is important, right? Let us understand that whenever we are talking about emissions, it means that any energy or fuel which we are burning, because of that, there are emissions which are coming up, and which is actually causing the global warming. Okay. Today, everybody is talking about climate change, global warming, or emissions, and why this and how emissions are actually adding to global warming is because these emissions does not go away. It settles in the sky or in the space and does not allow no further air to go up and causes the warming of the whole atmosphere. Correct? And the major gases which contribute here are actually these 6 gases. You can see it here on my screen.
Right.
Carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane, SF6, PFC, and HFC. Right. This is major contribution if you are burning any fuel, let's say petrol, diesel, or anything. It is basically carbon dioxide which gets generated. So any carbon, if you are going to burn, it will convert it into carbon dioxide. Right. There are other gases which gets formed, which are methane and nitrous oxide. So carbon dioxide actually makes more than 99%.
Okay.
of the emissions which is taking place. And ballast gases, methane and nitrous oxide also has certain amount of contribution. But the other gases which are basically because of the using of this hexafluorochlorides,
Right.
which you normally use in your refrigeration system, right? Here the global warming potentials are very high, but the quantity is very, very low.
Quantity.
So in our normal terminology, the units of emissions are supposed to be metric ton of carbon dioxide, MtCO2 equivalent, right?
Okay.
So a unit, when we are no writing a unit of, let's say, any emission, it has to be always in the terms of carbon dioxide equivalent.
Right.
Right. Like a unit of meter, your unit of distance or the unit of measurement is what meter. Similarly, unit of emissions is carbon dioxide equivalent. So even methane, nitrous oxide, or any other oxide, we convert every unit or every gas into the unit of carbon dioxide, and then we report it accordingly.
So there are standard yardsticks of standard metering.
Yeah. So what is supposed to be said is that these methane and nitrous oxide, they have a global warming potential. So with
Right.
that potential, you will have to multiply that and then to find out what is the total amount of emission with respect to that particular gas which is happening no in the atmosphere. I'll come to that no later on. Once you see
Right.
the calculation,
Right.
you will understand that how the meaning of this no unit measurement and conversion is taking place. Shall I go ahead?
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Okay. Now emissions are basically three types. One is scope 1, other is scope 2, third is scope 3. I don't know whether you have heard of it. Like, no, madam has already said, no, we are talking about these scopes. So I hope you are aware of this.
No, we
But
are
I'll
aware.
just give you a small explanation what is the meaning of this. The scope 1 is majorly the energy or heat generated within your own facility, right? Let's say I am burning a fuel. You got a small office, or you got a unit or industry. There, if you are using diesel, petrol, furnace oil, or some fuel, no, by which there is emission which is taking place. How does it take place? If you use a fuel in boiler, if you use a diesel in DG set, if you are using that fuel in your car, the car which belongs to that unit or the company.
Right.
So whatever fuel which or whatever the use of energy which one is doing within a premises, and because of that, whatever emissions are getting generated, which is basically supposed to be direct use of energy, is considered to be scope 1 emissions.
Okay.
Okay. Now, scope 2 emissions are something now when we are saying because of indirect use. When there is a thermal power plant which is giving electricity to your unit, and we are using it for running of light or the
Right.
power. So because of our use, there is somewhere else which is emission is taking place. So these are considered to be indirect emissions, and this could be possible. Let's say, in a unit you require steam, in a unit you require cooling, in a unit you require ammonia, and you are getting it generated in a third party and then consuming that. So because of your requirement or your consumption, somewhere else, somebody else is doing the emissions, those emissions are considered to be scope 2. So if your requirement goes down, even the emissions can go down.
Right.
Right.
Right, sir.
Now, coming to scope 3 emissions, there are 15 units in scope 3 emissions. Besides scope 1 and scope 2, anything which is where the emissions are taking place with respect to your unit are considered to be scope 3 emissions of that unit. Now, I'll give you one very simple example. Let's say we are the company Bharat Petroleum. We produce petrol and diesel, and we sell it at a petrol pump. Okay. And you purchase diesel from there, and you generate emission from your vehicle.
Vehicle.
So
Right.
because of my selling of the petrol to you, the emissions are generated. Those are considered to be scope 3 emissions.
Right.
Correct. So use of sold product. So I am giving I am selling that product. Because of that, whatever emissions are generating are considered to be scope 3 emissions. Similarly, in my unit, when I, or let's say now from our unit, our depot, installation or LPG plants, we are filling no petrol or diesel and sending to our petrol pump. So when we are sending that in a truck, so that movement of truck and the use of diesel in that truck, because of that, whatever emissions are getting created are supposed to be scope 3 for that unit.
Okay.
I hope, am I clear?
Right, sir. You
Similarly,
must be having
business,
great amount of scope 3 emissions, right?
exactly.
Right.
Similarly, business travel, if I am doing, similarly, employee commuting. When you are coming every day to office in your vehicle, so the emissions what you are creating is scope 3. But if there is a company vehicle which is there, which is using company fuel or diesel running for the, that unit is considered to be scope 1.
Right.
So there is a small difference between the two. If you are using your vehicle to commute around here and there, and you are using a fuel and getting emission generated, that can be scope 3 emissions. But if there is a vehicle or there is a vehicle truck or no something else which you are using for your own, for the use of the business, so those kind of emissions are considered to be scope 3 emissions of that business.
Right.
So similarly, there are no 15 items which I am showing you. No, I mean, companies are supposed to actually give that details, but these are slightly difficult because many a cases, no, companies are unable to give that detail. Let's say purchase goods and services, or even the end of life of product, or even lease facilities, waste, because either the factors are not available or the LCAs are not available. LCA means life cycle assessment.
Right.
Let's say no, when you are generating 1 kg of let's say iron, what is the amount of emission which has happened while generation of that? And if you purchase that iron, so those emissions related to you would be your scope 3 emissions. No, it's something like that.
Right, sir.
Right. So scope 3 emissions are slightly difficult. It altogether depends on which company and how much they are actually disclosing. If you go to our sustainability report, you will find that minimum 3 to 4 items we are actually disclosing there or we are publishing there. Typically, one about the business travel, secondly, transport and distribution, and third is use of sold product.
Right.
Okay.
Means several of the items like capital goods and purchase of goods, the emissions related to purchase goods and capital goods might not be available. Details of those might not
Not
be
that,
available.
not that, Anilji. The problem what happens is there are these details. Sometimes these are very tedious. But typically for oil and gas, I'll tell you, in our case, the use of sold products majorly makes around 90-95% of the emissions. Therefore, the other emissions become negligible.
Right.
Therefore, we do not focus there. But assume that there is a no IT company. Their whole model of emissions is basically on the vehicle travel. Okay.
Right.
Or the commuting by the employees at different locations because they are hardly consuming any fuel in their offices. So it varies. You have to look into which is the material item for you, where you have to focus to publish the details.
Sir,
Am I clear?
there is one question means somehow from nowadays people are doing work from home.
Correct.
So the electricity burned there will be in a scope 1 or scope 3?
Scope 2.
Scope 2.
The electricity run in your house, let's say you are considering individual. Now, if you consider as an individual, so what fuel you are using for your vehicle will be your scope 1. Electricity, what you are consuming, or gas, what you are consuming, or diesel, what you are consuming for running of your DG set, right? DG set will be scope 1, but electricity, what you are consuming is scope 2, and you are commuting. Right. Let's say you take a bus or a truck, a bus or a train or the flight and then go somewhere. So those are the possible ways that you are actually generating scope 3 emissions.
Okay. Okay.
Now you can even go for food also. Not the food what you consume, right? That could also create an emission. But normally people look into majorly for the energy items only. because it is easier to calculate. Otherwise, the details are not there. The kind of requirement which is supposed, which you need to know, no, in with respect to the reporting or the calculating of the details, sometimes may not be there. Shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please.
I think okay. See, these are no certain examples which I already mentioned about direct emissions or scope 1 emissions. Typically, boiler, furnace oil, DG set, fire engine. No, this is typically with respect to oil companies. We got a small, let's say we got a depot or installation where no such kind of equipments are there. But for easy understanding is something which is within our own control. That location, the location which is within your control, where you are consuming for the business purpose, whatever fuel which you are consuming is supposed to create scope 1 emission. Similarly, scope 2 when you are purchasing, and scope 3 emissions are other indirect emissions, which is basically supposed to be the associated stakeholders, how they are connected with you and the amount of emissions what they are generating. Now, I will, with this slide, I also wanted to show you, let's say, today we all are talking about net zero kind of solution, or people are saying, we have to cut down our emissions. I'll just connect this also with the emissions or the GHG emissions accounting, which is taking place, because you should be in a position to understand the meaning of what is the meaning of net zero. Okay.
Right.
See, when we are saying that GHG emissions are produced because of the use of energy, and if we remove the total amount of emission from the atmosphere, I think you can understand that would be the ideal state. So the emissions which are being created, and somehow if you remove it and then not destroy it, so hardly any emissions would be there and the atmosphere would be clean, right? So that is the ideal state actually supposed to be. But what actually happens, what practically happens, let's say we run a vehicle or we run equipment, and then emissions generate, but the emissions which are removed from the atmosphere are not equal to the emissions which are generated. So there is residual emissions which always remains into the atmosphere, and which is causing the global warming or the climate change and those kind of things. How emissions are reduced is basically trees are one of the major natural source which absorbs carbon dioxide. Am I correct?
Right, sir, correct.
Sir. So tree is one of the method which absorbs carbon dioxide. There is another method like oceans are there, or you use that carbon dioxide which gets generated into creating different products. So that is how you remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and that is what is known as removed GHG emissions from the atmosphere. Okay, so what we are today talking about is that our GHG emissions or the emissions which are getting produced by using energy are going higher and higher, and the removed is lower. Therefore, the emissions remain in the atmosphere. Okay. Now, what is the method of let's say saying that we have to ensure that a situation would come that we are going to be a net zero kind of a atmosphere within your environment. So that condition can only come either when you stop generating the emissions. Now I'll give you one example. Like we are using electricity, but let's say we start using solar electricity.
Right.
So the thermal plant which is causing emissions now stopped, and you are only using electricity from the solar. So it is not creating any emissions, right? So this is one method by which you can reduce emissions.
Okay.
Or let's say you are using wind energy, or similar kind of a system where you are cutting down your emissions. Instead of using fuel, you started using green hydrogen, right? Instead of using fuel, you started using fuel cell or battery. Where there is no emission which is creating, so you are not adding emission. So this is one of the method of reduction of emissions. And sequestration of emissions could be either you take those emissions which are generated and put it under the sea or soil or somewhere where that carbon dioxide does not come back to the atmosphere, or you sequestrate. The best method, again I told you, sequestration is through natural sources like trees. That is why every time it is being said, you plant more and more trees because that improves the biodiversity. Shall I go ahead?
What do you exactly mean by sequestration?
Sequestration meaning is basically you take carbon dioxide and absorb and remove from the atmosphere. The meaning of sequestration is to basically remove. And the tree is one of the best source which actually takes the carbon dioxide, makes its foods, and then generate oxygen out of it.
Okay. Okay.
I will also give you a slight flavor of what is happening in the COP. Recently you would have heard of there are these parties or these meetings which are taking place globally, where people are also talking about the reduction of emissions, meeting the requirement of global requirement of not increasing the temperature with more than 1.5 degrees centigrade or below 2 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
Correct. So you would have heard of this COP26.
Right. We have also.
Yeah. COP means Conference of Parties.
Right.
Right. It started from 1997 when there was the first Kyoto Protocol which has taken place. It started, and then every year, there is a meeting which used to take place, but that was not very important at that point of time. People were not having that kind of a knowledge that certain this kind of a meeting is also taking place, where countries are getting collected and talking about reduction of emissions. I think somewhere it caught the attention of the people by COP21,
Right.
which was considered to be Paris Agreement, where people understood that this is becoming very, very important now, when we have to cut down our emissions across the world. Otherwise, the climate change, because of the change of the climate, it is affecting people, it is generating cyclones, it is generating so many other natural disasters. Like you would have seen this, that even in India now, in this year, there is no snow in the hills, right? Certain small period of time you will find no heavy rains are there. Small period of time you will find heavy winter is there, and then suddenly very peak summer is there. So this is nothing but due to the climate change which is taking place, and climate change has become one of the very, very important risk for any company. Today, when any investor talks about, or when any financial institution talks about, and if he says that what is your major risk, it comes out to be climate change, which is supposed to be mitigated, which he sees that what company is taking action to mitigate such a kind of a risk.
Right.
Okay, so that is why these things are becoming very important. COP21 was one of the meeting which has become important, and it took place in Paris, where countries have decided to take their NDCs. NDCs is nationally determined contributions.
Right.
Now, what is the meaning of nationally determined contributions is that every country has claimed or committed that they will be able to voluntarily reduce so much of emissions and give it to globe. Okay.
Correct.
These meetings, these conferences are actually conducted by IPCC, International Panel of Climate Change, Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, right? It is a UN connected body, which is actually where these meetings are conducted, and where the people have, or the countries have actually decided first time. And that was actually happened for the first time when the countries have taken their target that they would reduce the emissions or cut down the emissions to meet the global requirement of that temperature, that they will not allow temperatures to go beyond 2 degrees centigrade to ensure that the global warming should not take place. Right. Slowly, these things were carrying on. And then later on, COP26 has become again very famous, where India has also contributed a lot, where our Prime Minister has gone and actually talked about that we have also taken certain stringent and major targets correct? And where the even green financing has also come up in a major way, where the developing countries have mentioned that they need to get the financing from the developed countries to take the actions to ensure that the global warming or the temperature of the globe should not rise more than 1.5 degrees centigrade, and or it should remain well below 2 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
For that, no, let's say our NDCs, or what we have, as a country, we have taken basically the targets. These are the ones which are being mentioned here. That we as a country will become net zero by 2070. We are going to this net zero means what? That scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, all three scopes will become zero. That means company like us will no stop in existence by 2070, and we will not sell anything, because use of sold product will also come into scope 3 emissions, right?
So you will be selling only industrial goods?
No, we will see that. That will come later, but I am just not trying to explain this, the meaning of that, how it will become. But there is a different way, that it will come up to. Okay. I'll come in the different slides later on.
Can I ask you how to means the question is how to calculate the things, how to calculate these emissions?
I'll come to that, na.
Right,
I am just after this, I'll come to that only. Then you will be able to calculate what is the emission, which you need to calculate. The topic basically is that right now I am only building the concept. Shall I go ahead?
Sir.
Okay. Another thing is that these are the 5 basic targets or the contributions which India as a country has mentioned. Why I am trying to show is that you should also be able to understand basically all these are linked to emissions, climate change only. Now, why we are all calculating to meet such kind of requirements, and what is the effect of that we can see during the time of calculation. So when we are saying increasing non-fuel energy capacity to 500 gigawatt means, to the extent of 500 gigawatt, we'll cut down our emissions, reducing carbon emissions by 1 billion tons by 2030, bringing down the economic carbon intensity below 45% by 2030. This carbon intensity, again, it means that we are going to cut down our carbon intensity and cut down our emissions by more than 45%. Right. So anything and everything is basically related to emissions only here. Now, this why I am again, for your understanding, why I am showing this is only a global aspects which I am trying to show. Because of that only, why we need to account, calculate, and report.
Right.
Otherwise, all that thing would have never come here. No, it is only the background and the focus, why this thing has become so important, because as a country we have committed.
Right.
See, another COP meeting took place in Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt in last year, where again, basically here countries have decided that they will ensure that they will take targets to reduce emissions every 5 years, right? And they will also ensure that they should align the cutting down emissions to 1.5 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
Increase in temperature. They also ensure that in case a company which is involved in deforestation, right, and other environmentally destructive activities such as damaging natural resources, cannot claim as a net zero company. No room for new investment in fossil fuel if we are to achieve 1.5 degrees centigrade. Correct. It will not be allowed to go for more exploration, etc. No, if we are actually supposed to achieve 1.5 degrees centigrade. Align capital expenditure and business strategy with net zero target. That is why in the financial company today, every investor, right, every insurance company, every investor, all are looking into that. What is your requirement, or how much capex we are spending in the targets of cutting down emissions. Correct. Even we have investors like BlackRock, HDFC, HSBC, and today's meeting, they always ask us the kind of initiatives what we have taken as a company. And if they find that our targets or the initiatives what we have taken is actually for cutting down the emissions, they appreciate that. Right. That is how this green financing is coming up. And if we are doing green projects, then our insurance value will also come down. So those all things have become interrelated. Today, what is this TCFD? Task Force for Climate Change Financial Disclosure. Right. So all these tasks or the things which earlier used to be subjective, today are talking about in terms of finances.
Right.
Why CAs are looking for this item is basically because finance got connected here. It is not only that you have to look into the business needs, it is also the non-financial initiatives. Are they becoming business sense for a business to take up? See, we as a company, when we were earlier purchasing power through different sources, but today we are saying that we are going to install projects worth 10 gigawatt to generate our own power.
Right. Good.
So this is a business case now. Today, earlier, which was not a business case, today, solar power is getting generated at 2 rupees or 2 rupee 15 paisa. Earlier,
Right.
it used to be 25 rupees per unit.
Correct, sir.
Correct.
Correct, sir.
So when this was 25 rupees per unit, it was not worthwhile. But today, when it has come to 2 rupees, even a payback period is 3 to 4 years. And I am sure, as a chartered accountant, you would always say that this is one of the lucrative business to put your money into.
We are encouraging our clients to put this rooftop solar systems.
Exactly. So now I'm just trying to connect this. Why I'm saying that today every green project is being looked into as a business proposal.
Right.
Is it true? Is it possible? Are we going to get a return out of it? Then only people are taking up such kind of projects. Okay. This is the last one which I'll just give you a flavor about COP28, which happened in Dubai, and where again people or the countries have decided to triple the renewable energy capacity and doubling the energy efficiency improvement. Okay. This all is related to emissions only. You take it for granted. Everything is related to emissions and accounting of emissions and how to report it, how to cut it down. Right. Global goal on adaptation and climate resilient future and how their efforts can be assessed. Loss and damage fund was brought into life. The fund was created where the developed countries were supposed to contribute because they are already emitting a lot. All Western countries are doing a lot of emissions. So what they thought is they will put up projects in the developing countries and wash their hands, saying that we are not emitting anything. But slowly these things are changing, and all the developing countries have now raised their hands to say that you have to fund us to come up with the green projects, and that fund is actually considered to be green fund or loss and damage fund. Right. So somewhere in the last meeting at Dubai, COP28, slowly what you find is that earlier, it was a subjective matter which is slowly coming into objective, where the people are finally talking about money.
Okay.
Right. Now, this is the concept of why emissions have started taking place. Now, I will come out for the GHG accounting. How emissions, how the accounting is supposed to take place. How you calculate the emission for any of the fuel, for any of the item which is generating energy and emissions. Correct? See, I will take one of our case of refinery.
Right, sir.
Why I am saying refinery? Because refinery is a place where lot of fuels are being consumed and intergenerated and consumed. Okay.
Right.
We have a refinery in Mumbai.
Okay.
I will just put this. Okay. Tell me, is it visible?
Is this section fuel used of diesel is visible, sir.
Is it visible now? No?
Right.
Okay. See, what you find is there is a fuel used which is diesel. Let's say we have to find out what is the emission factor of diesel, right?
Right.
So diesel is a fuel which is normally used. Which are the normal fuels which you find which can create emissions? It can be petrol, diesel, right? Kerosene, furnace oil,
Right.
okay, LPG, CNG, LNG, correct?
All
So
kind of
these are the fuels which are commonly come into connect, which are getting used and which are creating emissions.
right, sir.
Okay, no other thing, no, unless there is a carbon, it's a hydrocarbon, it will not generate any emissions. So basically, hydrocarbon or the industry which is involved into hydrocarbon or coal, no, that only generates emissions.
Right, sir.
Okay.
Coal is also a hydrocarbon, sir.
Coal is also hydrocarbon only.
Right.
It's a carbon, it's a basically carbon, majorly carbon and small amount of hydrogen.
Right.
Whereas the fuels are supposed to be combination of hydrocarbon.
Hydrocarbon.
Like ethane, methane, propane, butane, no, all these are hydrocarbons only. And if I say that what is the fuel, no, let's say propane, LPG. LPG is a mixture of propane and butane. So propane is C3H8, butane is C4H10, right? So anything which is hydrocarbon is considered to be carbon and hydrogen. Hydrogen basically makes water and carbon basically makes carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. Right. Right.
So these are the figures which you can see here. There is a net calorific value of diesel which is 43. No, I will take you to a table which is IPCC table C1. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at here, default emission factors for stationary combustion in energy industries. Right. And here, if I take diesel as a common fuel, very general fuel, if you look at carbon dioxide has got emission factor as 74,100.
Right.
And it shows lower emission factor is so much, higher emission factor is so much.
Right.
Correct, na?
Right. Correct, sir.
Similarly, if you look at methane, it shows default emission factor is 3, lower is 1, higher is 10. Similarly, N2O, correct?
0.6, 0.2 and
0.6, 0.2 and 2.
2.
Now, before calculating or coming to emissions, I will tell you emissions are also of 3 types. Okay. I told you these are scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And the calculation methodology are also of 3 types, which are tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3.
Tier 1, tier 2, tier. Right.
Now, tier 1, the meaning of tier 1 factors are those factors when we take it from the standard system, like IPCC factors, GHG protocol, you had some 3420, the system which has been made, SAE, some number you have said 3410, I think, where you are actually calculating factors or you are taking factors. If I show you this sheet, again here we have 3 types of factors. DEFRA, it's a UK DEFRA. UK DEFRA means DEFRA is the standard, whereas it is more applicable in United Kingdom. Then we have IPCC factors, which is basically US factors, and it's typically of UN.
UN.
And
Right.
then we have, sorry?
IPCC is UN one.
So these factors are commonly being used, and these are supposed to be global factors, generally factors which are being calculated after considering various environment and various types of generation of fuel. Let's say diesel is generated in different refineries, different calorific values are being considered. Then average factor is being taken here. So this factor is basically as per IPCC factor. Correct.
Okay.
Now, tier 2 factors are those factors which are related to a country. No country specific factor. Assume India is a country, and in India there are 10 refineries. Each is generating diesel, and each is calculating different factor of a diesel. And then you average it out and say for India this is applicable. This is no more common factor. You can take it.
Okay.
Right. Another example I can give you is, let's say the electricity is generated. Different state is generating using different coal and then generating different electricity which is being fed to the grid, but the quality through the quality of coal or the quality of fuel use, the emission factor can be different for different unit or the different place. But once you average it out and say that this is the country specific unit, those units are considered to be scope 2 units or tier 2 units, right? Tier 2 units. Coming to tier 3, now let's say our company, we take it that we have a refinery, correct? And for generation of diesel, I am using one is A fuel, A crude, then B crude, then C crude. Okay. Now for taking A crude, I need different amount of energy. For B crude, which is heavy in nature, I require different amount of energy. For C crude, which is more heavier in nature, more sulfur in nature, I require different amount of energy. And because of that, 3 diesels gets generated, which may be having slight variation with respect to emission while burning. They are meeting the same requirement, they are meeting the same specifications, but within a tolerance limit, and their emission could be different. Is it understandable?
There can be different emissions because of the technology used.
Because of the technology used, because of the factors used, because of the crude, which is there, because of the different kind of fuel which is used to generate that.
Right.
Right. So when those are being generated with the different specifications within the required limits, then those factors are considered to be tier 3 factors.
Okay.
Right. So what happened is, one is a global factor, second is a country specific factor, and third is a unit specific factor.
Okay, sir.
Now again come back to our table. When we are seeing this table, what I said is we have one net calorific value. I'll show you that value also. If you see diesel has got a net calorific value as terajoule per gigagram.
Right.
1 gigagram is having 43 terajoule of calorific value, which is the average of lower calorific value and higher calorific value. So lower is 41.4, higher is 43.3. I hope you understand the difference between the lower and upper. Right. And the average of that is a net value, what we have taken as a net calorific value of diesel. Okay. Right. So this is from this table. This is again IPCC table. Now you got one factor you got is 43 megajoule per kg. After conversion, if you convert that, at 4.3 will become, see what you have seen here. This is 40 kerosene, here, 43. Right. This 43 TJ per GG may be written as 43 MJ per kg. Right. Okay. So it is only a conversion and calculation which can be done. Right. Now we need to calculate the emission factors also. So when we go here, I have showed you in the table, this IPCC table, what you find is that default emission factor of diesel
74.100.
74.100. So this is the default emission factor, right? Right. kg of greenhouse gas per TJ on a net calorific basis. So this is itne kg of greenhouse gas. This is 7410 kg of greenhouse gas per terajoule of, right? It
Right,
is
SRSB.
kg per TJ, right?
Right.
That is the unit. So when we convert this into ton
Metric
CO2
ton.
per mj, ton CO2, as I told you, our unit of carbon dioxide is empty CO2. So when we
MTU.
converted that 741,000, we have to divide by 10 to the power 9. You can
Right,
see
10
the
to power 9.
calculation
Right.
here. So here that will become ton CO2 per mj.
Right.
Similarly, if we look into here, the emission factor for methane.
Yeah, methane.
This diesel,
It is
when you
R3.
burn, when you burn diesel, it will generate carbon dioxide, it will generate certain amount of methane, it will generate certain amount of
And
nitrous oxide.
nitric oxide.
Okay. So those factors, once we consider here, what we find is that we have to multiply that 3 unit we have to divide by 10 to the power 9 to get it converted into ton CH4 per mj. Right. Similarly, that N2O emission factor is 0.6.
Right.
Show you here. In
0.6.
D and then 0.6.
0.6. Right, sir.
0.6. That we take it here again divided by 10 to the power 9 and we get this figure as ton N2O per mj. See, all these things are, one is ton CO2, second is ton CH4, third is ton
Nitric
N2O.
oxide.
Right. Now, I also told you there is a global warming potential for carbon dioxide, for methane, for nitrous oxide. So
Okay.
let us look into what is the global warming potential. See, in here, if you see this table,
Okay.
these are all IPCC tables only,
Okay.
right? Here, if you look at this table, then for carbon dioxide, the unit is 1 only. GWP is considered to be 1.
Because it's the standard measuring.
This is the standard measuring system, right? When we look at methane, it has got a value of 28. When we look at nitrous oxide, it has got a value of
265.
265. Correct? Now, what we are supposed to do is we have to calculate this factor for diesel. So, in this IPCC factor, the benefit is it considers minimum 3 gases. That is carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So it is a combination of all 3 because that is how IPCC factors are denoted.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Right. Means this is emission factor into GWP.
This is emission factor which considers the 3 GHG gases because of burning of diesel.
Right.
Whereas the easiest method would be only take carbon dioxide and calculate the factor.
Okay.
But here what we are doing is we are taking the weighted value of methane and nitrous oxide, which is also getting generated in this
Also
cube.
that is generated along with the
And then we are calculating. As I told you that emission are calculated in terms of CO2 only. So when we say that any diesel which is burning, if it has got carbon and hydrogen, so C into oxygen is equal to CO2. So I will take only one figure. But here I have taken the potential or the weighted average of all 3.
Methane and nitric oxide.
That means I have considered 3 GHG gases in my factor.
Okay.
Out of 6, which I have showed you in the first slide. Right. Because the hexafluorides are not there. Therefore, I am only trying to tell you the IPCC factors considers minimum weightage of 3 GHG gases. Okay. So, to a certain extent, these are a generalized, more acceptable factor where most of the GHG gases are being considered for contribution.
Means you need to set some standard, whether IPCC or these.
You have to consider some factor. You have to take some standard from where you have to take the factor, and accordingly you have to calculate the emissions.
Okay.
So right now I am only calculating factor.
Okay.
Through IPCC standard. Now I got a fuel called diesel. I have taken its calorific value. I have considered its emission factors 1, 2, 3 like this.
Fine.
And now I am calculating the weighted average. Now weighted average, how I am calculating is H13. H13 means this factor, NCV, right?
Right.
This is the emission factor which is coming as ton CO2 equivalent per kg. That means 1 kg of diesel will give me so much of emission
There's so
in
much
terms
kg
of
of carbon
empty
dioxide.
CO2. Sorry?
Right.
In terms of empty CO2, TCO2 means empty CO2.
Right.
That means if you look at this factor, when I'll multiply here, H14 into 17. So I have
Right.
to multiply this factor with GWP, which is 1. 3 multiplied by 28, right?
Right.
If you look at this formula, H14 into H17 plus H15 into 18 plus H16 into 19. So what I did is
emission factor
emission
into
factor
GWP
multiplied by GWP. I have to do add
of
all.
that particular gas.
Add all.
And add
Because
on.
now,
Right.
once I have done that multiplication by GWP, it has got converted into CO2 equivalent.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Correct? Now, I don't think so. No, I mean the group which is sitting here that I am sure that knows about how to
And we
carry
would
out the
not mind,
weighted
sir. We
average
would
and all
not
that in
mind. This
terms
is
of
why
figures, right?
we were troubled how to calculate these things and where to find those values actually.
Right? So
Right.
this is how you have calculated and you have multiplied to get the emission factor of diesel.
And how
So
this
we
is
have,
2.64, sir?
sorry,
2.64.
I'll tell you, na. This is
Right.
ton CO2 per kg. है ना?
Right.
or multiplied by 1000 is 3.197
Per kg.
per kg, or divided by 1.21 is equal to per liter, because density
Liter,
of diesel
liter.
is
Okay.
0.8
Okay, per liter. Right, sir.
per liter. Density, हाँ जी. The liter to kg, this factor can be taken as 1.21. If you divide 1 divided by 1.21, it will become 0.8. So density is 0.8. Right. Either way, you can say the conversion factor is 1.21.
Right, right.
Normally, what we do, we calculate or we measure diesel in terms of what? Liter or kg?
Liter.
Liter. है ना? When
Right.
we see, it altogether depends how you are calculating. Let's say we are calculating in
Right.
terms of liter. So for ease, I have converted into liter.
Right.
So per 1 liter, every liter will generate 2.64 kg CO2 equivalent of emission.
One liter of diesel consumed will emit 2.64 kg of carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide equivalent.
Equivalent.
See, anything, whenever you are using unit, you will have to say E.
E.
You know, because everything has to be in carbon dioxide equivalent. Even the carbon methane also we have converted to carbon dioxide equivalent, right?
Right. Agreed.
Is this calculation clear?
This calculation is clear to me. I don't know. I believe
That you will have to check up with the people.
This calculation will be very clear to all the participants.
No, Anilji, you please check up now. Somewhere we have to get the confirmation of the participants. Is this clear? Because after that it is very, very simple.
Right.
See, we have used 3 tables. We have checked up the calorific value. We have taken the emission factor of each item, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, and then we have calculated the emission factor weighted average of E of that fuel.
Right. Correct, sir.
Are you clear?
It is very clear, sir. But the books, the standards which you are showing, the page number.
These are very, very common IPCC standard.
IPCC standard.
These IPCC standard you can download from the Google.
Right, sir.
Right. Even the table number, etc., is also given. It is very common general standard which can be downloaded.
Right, sir. Got it, sir.
I want one more confirmation, Anilji, from either of your participant or the people here. Is it clear or not? If anything more is required, then I'll clarify here.
I will ask Maheshji to confirm whether the participants are getting this confirmation or not.
Sir, question will be taken up at the end of the webinar.
Okay.
Yes.
ठीक है. But I just wanted to check up because no, these items need to be understood that this is how this calculation is being
Being
calculated.
done.
Right. Now take another fuel. We can take
Right,
one
sir.
more
Take another
example
fuel, sir.
and then can go ahead. Okay.
Right, sir.
Now what we have taken is
Diesel.
we have
Previously,
taken
we
is
have taken diesel.
diesel, common fuel. We can take naphtha. Right.
We can
Similar
take
thing.
naphtha, sir. Right.
NCV is so much, or we can take LNG. We can take anything. Let's say we have taken natural gas.
Natural
Here,
gas liquid,
net
right, sir?
calorific value as per that table is 44.2.
Okay.
Emission factor, you can see that there is a slight change here, 0.00642, right?
Okay.
Or 64,200 divided by 10 to the power 9.
Okay.
Butane is 3, N2 is 0.6. Once again, we have calculated. Here the emission factor that has come out for natural gas is 2848 kg CO2 per MT.
And it is coming into kilos only.
Kg CO2 per MT. Now, depending on what is required, let's say natural gas we sell and we purchase in terms of MT only. Therefore,
Okay.
we kept it like this, right? Or no, you compare here. See, natural gas is how much? 2848, and diesel is how much?
2.3.
3.17.
Okay.
Diesel is 3.17. That means what? That means natural gas is a cleaner fuel as compared to diesel.
Diesel. Right. Right.
Clear ना ये आपको यहीं से दिख रहा है you can
यहीं
make
से
out
पिक करना
from here
पड़ेगा
itself.
3 point because लीटर के किलो वर्सेस किलो
तो जो ज्यादा एमिशन करेगा
वो ज्यादा हैवी हो गया.
ज्यादा खराब होगा फ्यूल.
Right, sir.
तो let's say compare here naphtha gives how much? 3272 as compared to natural gas. Similarly,
higher.
let's say furnace oil gives 3136, correct?
It is equivalent to diesel.
Almost equivalent to diesel.
Almost.
Refinery gas, if we take again, that gives 2.2853. So something like your natural gas.
Like natural gas.
Right. Similarly, pet coke, similarly gasoline. So each item we have calculated the emission factors. Now, if you look at biofuel,
Biofuel is only 1.3.
Biofuel, if we see that the emission factor is only 2.7.
Wow, good.
Why? Because in case of biofuel, it goes with the life cycle, right? As I told you, trees are natural source to absorb carbon dioxide. Similarly, when the biofuel or that particular item that is being grown, during that time it actually absorbs carbon dioxide or sequestrate. That means it absorbs and keeps it in its stem.
Okay.
So carbon it keeps it within its body or stem. So that to that extent, when it is burning, it gives that fuel. So when we check it, we find that it is almost compensated. The amount of carbon it has absorbed is equivalent to when it is being burnt. Right. That is why the fuel biogas or biofuel are considered to be, or biomass are considered to be zero emitting fuel.
Okay.
Okay. Coking coal, if you take it, similarly, each fuel we have worked out.
Okay.
Each fuel we have worked out what is the amount of emission it generates. Right?
Great working, sir. Great working.
So, coming to now, refinery. Now, let us see what is that we are doing at refinery. Now, these are the fuels what we are consuming. And at the same time, we have also done comparison with all three factors.
Okay.
One is DEFRA factors. DEFRA factors is tier 2 factor of a country.
Right.
Second is IPCC factor. IPCC factor means tier 1 factor of a globe.
Right.
And tier 3 factor basically of a unit.
Of the unit. Correct.
Yeah, we have compared all three for Mumbai refinery.
Okay.
Now I'll give you one example. See, tier 3 factors are very, very difficult to calculate. Reason being is every time we will have to dynamically we have to change the figure, and then standardization becomes very, very difficult. Let's say,
Okay.
no, I have a petrol pump or I have a depot from where, no, I am calculating diesel ka emission. And then I
Right.
have a refinery where I am calculating. Now it can be a different diesel, different factor at one place, different factor at the other place. And similarly, this is what we are doing. Reliance is doing something else. Indian Oil is doing something else.
Doing something else. Right.
So the kind of comparison which it requires is extremely difficult.
Correct. 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 Correct.
Right now. And then there is a change of crude. Now we are in our refinery are using 150 kind of crudes. Correct.
Okay.
So the combination or the differences which happens becomes very, very difficult. If I have only one unit, one single refinery, and for that only I have to give the details, then it can be standardized. But
Right.
for so many units and so many locations, when I have to report, it is always better to take tier one factor only, which are globally accepted, more standardized, less variation, and generally required.
Generally required. Generally accepted also.
Generally accepted. But the problem is, again, I'll tell you what is the problem. There are consultants which are moving in the field, right?
Okay.
And to gain the benefit or access, they will say, sir, you report as per tier 3, they'll be more accurate.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
In the
Right.
name of making it more accurate, they will actually now spoil the system. Because though there is no standardization, there is no accuracy.
Okay. 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 And there is no reason for variation. There is no
And
quantification for
no
the variation
variation, we
also.
will come later. The variation I'll show you.
Okay.
See, why I am trying to tell you, if you have only one unit, let's say there is a company called Maruti, it has got only one unit,
Right.
you have to calculate details there, then there is no issue. You can
Right.
calculate your own factors and of the fuel.
Right.
We actually generate the hydrocarbon. Now, in such a case where we are having 150 kind of crude having different properties, every time every crude will give different factor of different fuel. Even if I calculate that, but at my marketing location, no, I don't know which fuel, which emission he is do, which fuel or which particular cut he is using it there. So there again, no, I'll have to go for global factor. Now there is a combination between the two. Here I am using tier 3, there I am using tier 1. Am I clear? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So what is happening is where the variation and or the diversification of units are there, it is better to take tier 1 factors only.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Correct. Now we have also compared how it is varying. If you have seen, as I told you, DEFRA is UK DEFRA, IPCC is tier 1, and tier 3 is basically our Mumbai refinery has calculated with each fuel. It has come out with the calorific value. It has taken the values. But again, you look at it can only calculate carbon dioxide. It may be difficult to calculate nitrous oxide and methane.
Right.
Right. So even tier 1 factor also, that combination of GHG gases will not be there, which is mainly possible in case of IPCC factor.
Okay.
Okay. I am not telling that you use IPCC, but I am giving you the benefit of that.
Okay. Benefit of using that, using a standardized.
Using IPCC factor, because even DEFRA is a factor which does not take, it's a country specific factor, but it does not consider, it only takes carbon dioxide. It does not consider methane and the weighted average of methane and nitrous oxide.
Nitrous oxide. Okay.
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 So when we take IPCC factor, we are considering three GHG gases average, and then we have calculated. Now these are the figures which you see here. Let's say when I have taken LNG, what simply you have to do? You have to calculate the quantity used.
Right.
Okay. And I have to multiply by the factor.
Right.
Right. And this is F42. If I take F is F42 into
K42.
K42. K, where is K? Here. So this is the DEFRA factor, right?
Right.
This is IPCC factor. Now if I
Right.
take this figure, here it is F42, this quantity multiplied by this factor,
Right.
2695. I got the figure. So this is my emission in terms of kg CO2.
Right. Right.
Right. So I have started doing the accounting now. Now here I have done the accounting for with respect to all three factors. Now since you have calculated diesel, I'll show you for diesel. Right. Diesel consumed in vehicle. This is the quantity in liters.
Diesel
Right.
consumed in fire engines.
And this is the figure 2.69. You have seen 2.67.
Right.
Right? Or here it is 2.64. Here it is there 2.64 per liter. Right.
Correct.
I have
Correct.
multiplied 2.64
With the kilos.
with the consumption liter.
With the kilos. 235.
23630 or
Ah,
whatever 23581 divided by 10 to the power 3. I got it empty CO2. Right.
Right.
This
Right.
all I am calculating right now in kg CO2. Okay. With this multiplication by IPCC factor, I am calculating the amount of emission for each three methods, each three factor, no standards by, and then I am totally calculating the amount of emissions which is taking place in our refinery.
Right. Right. Sir. Right. Now.
There is one more factor which is very important. See, this all are fuel. LNG, refinery fuel gas, furnace oil, coke, PSA of gas, furnace oil.
Right.
After these are basically hydrocarbons, biomass and up to biogas. Okay?
Right, sir. Right. Got it.
Coming to electricity,
This is scope 2 emission and
this is scope to emission factor. Now, here in this case, what happens is these factors are given for electricity, basically country. Country means
right.
India. Country means India, and in our case, it is CEA.
Okay.
Central Electricity Authority, which publishes the value of emission factor for electricity grid.
Okay.
Right. And these factors or these calculations which I am showing you, we have taken a baseline of 1920. So this figure what I am showing you is of 1920, which is 0.8. 0.8 MTCO2 per megawatt hour.
Per megawatt.
What is the unit of electricity? 1 kilowatt hour. 1 kW. Right.
Megawatt.
1 kWh. 1 kWh is 1 unit. जो आप अपने घर में मीटर देखते हैं, if you look at your meter, 100 unit means 100 kilowatt hour.
Right.
Right. So this unit is 0.8 MTCO2 per megawatt hour or 0.8 kg CO2 per kilowatt hour. Correct, na?
Right, sir.
So this is what we have calculated, and what we came to know is this figure is coming as F62. This figure electricity consumed into L62, which is 0.8 divided by 10 to the power minus 10 to the power 3. So I got in MTCO2 per megawatt hour.
Right.
Okay. So all these emissions like this I have calculated.
Okay.
Even methane also emissions taking place in our refinery. So separately that figure we have calculated, and we have also multiplied by this 28. 28 is what? GWP.
Okay.
Methane is what? CH4. So in terms of quantity, we have calculated and multiplied by their GWP will give me the emissions in terms of carbon dioxide equivalent.
Right. Equivalent factor.
Equivalent has to be there. Now I am just showing you consolidation. Consolidation, if you look at what we find is the variation, right? This is scope 1 emissions. Look at here.
Right.
Can you see this figure?
Right.
Will I increase the size?
We are saying, sir.
If you look at this figure, scope 1 emissions, here if you see here, what we calculated is that scope 1 emissions with DEFRA.
Okay.
It is coming as 2882, IPCC 22225, Tier 3 2201. Right. Total, if you look at what we got is with DEFRA 2439, with IPCC 2382, and with Tier 3 is 2358.
Right.
Okay. So no, I just wanted to inform you one more thing.
Right.
I
Correct.
mean, these are not sacrosanct figures.
Correct.
I mean, this you cannot take it. No, these figures as 10 rupees plus 10 rupees is equal to 20.
Correct.
If I consider DEFRA, then my reporting as 2439 is correct. If I take IPCC 2382 is correct. If I take Tier 3 2358 is also correct.
Correct. Okay.
Right? It altogether depends on the assumptions which I have taken it for reporting.
Correct.
So it may not be 00, but this is the type of assumptions what I have taken. Accordingly, I have reported my emissions.
Okay. Means
So,
based
because this,
on assumptions, there might be some figures which might vary
which
plus
may
minus
vary,
5%.
which may vary, but normally, see here, see here, no very interesting case. With DEFRA, no figure is coming higher. With the IPCC, it is coming lower. It is assumed
Right.
that DEFRA figure should be lower, but IPCC it is coming lower, right?
Right.
Even the other refinery, if I'll show you, what we find is even Tier 3 is going higher.
Okay.
So depending on the one is convenience, second on the standardization, we as a company have considered we will only use IPCC because all other places standardization is not taking place.
Okay.
So when I report this figure is 2325, this is correct. And if you as another company or my peer group, if you report as 2294 and claim that no, this is as per Tier 3, that is also correct.
That is also correct, but that may not be comparable with the other company. Means some company which is working in, say, Iran or Iraq will not be comparable.
But for regulatory requirement, both are okay.
For regulatory requirement, they are okay, but they are not
But
comparable.
for public requirement also both are okay. But only thing is, no, I'll tell you now. Now, because these figures are not related to money as of now.
Okay.
Now, these are emissions only. Tomorrow, if there is a carbon tax, then it will get related to money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So as of now, whether I report 2294 or you report 2325, it does not make a difference.
Once you need to mitigate those emissions by paying money for carbon emissions, reduction in carbon emissions, then they will
Then it
matter.
may matter. Then it may matter. ठीक है ना?
Right, sir. Right, sir. Got it, sir.
Is it clear now?
It is clear to me, and I believe it will be clear to the audience also.
If you are clear, then I hope everybody must be clear. Now coming to this one. See, what we did is we have taken now you with this table, no, you can see all fuels we have no consolidated this sheet, and every fuel we have put the figure as net calorific value, emission factor with respect to carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, each GWP and each emission factor here.
Okay.
So this is a standard table now I have with me, summary, and through which I can work out and take any fuel and calculate my emissions.
Correct, sir. Correct, sir.
Similarly, for refrigerants also, I have taken at GWP. See, if you look at R22, GWP is 1760. I told you, na, HFC and this one.
Right.
Very high GWPs are there. HFC, it is 1120.
I believe there might be many science students also who can understand HFC very, very well.
No, it does not make a difference because it is hydrofluorocarbon. It is a basic fluorine are there. When we are using in refrigeration, let's say
right, they
your
emit
AC is there. AC, the gas which you use is basically creating hydrofluorocarbon.
Right, sir.
And R22, R134, it's a very commonly used. Only thing is we say it as refrigeration gas.
Means the industry which are using coolants also means coolants for their production.
Yeah.
The industry which are using coolants and all these refrigerations for their productions.
Correct. Even grid electricity, you see it, factor is taken as 0.82, which is as per GHG protocol, India GHG protocol. That means this figure has been given by CEA. But if I'll show you the current figure, what it says, CO2 baseline data for Indian power sector.
Power sector. Okay.
As per December 22, issued by Government of India, Ministry of Power, Central Electricity Authority, CEA. Yeah, na?
Right, sir. Right,
So
sir.
in India, this is the body which gives you the power factor of emission or generation of power of the grid.
Right, sir.
You read this one. Here it shows
Average is 0.81.
average is
Weighted average emission.
0.81.
Okay.
Correct?
Right, sir.
And here there is another one. The prevailing baseline emission based on data and taking it into the account of renewable generation. See, earlier it was without renewable generation excluding. But today there is a lot of renewable generation which is going into grid.
Right.
Now this emission factor has come down from 0.81 to 0.71.
71.
So in year 22-23, if you go to our sustainability report, you will find that we have used no emission factor as 0.71 megawatt
Instead of 0.81.
instead of 0.8. It is
Okay.
now 0.71 MTCO2 equivalent per megawatt hour.
Okay. Okay.
Is that clear?
That's clear, sir.
So these are two major important factors, right?
Okay. Next, the reporting means due to use of solar power, and solar power into going into grid, the
Solar power
scope
does
2
not.
emissions, scope 2 emissions are getting lower.
Exactly. That's right. Okay.
Right.
Now I will tell you with respect to our company. No, I have already taken a lot of time in explaining you all this, but now I'll come back faster because now it has become much easier.
Means, sir, you're telling a good thing. You are telling us how to account for GHG, because in seeing the things, in making the report, in evaluating the reports, even this chapter was beyond our reach. Actually, we could not have assessed. We could not
No,
assess.
see, Gupta ji, I'll tell you, when we face difficulty in finance, we come to you. So when you face that difficulty, you are always welcome to come to us.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Right, sir. We will have to take lessons from you, sir.
Okay. So here I'll just show you now I am relating to, this is what you have seen about COP. We have
Right.
also now understood how to calculate the emission factors and how to calculate the emissions of a unit. Now I will just relate to our company. Now we have 3 refineries. So what we have done is we have taken a baseline which we have set as year 1920, and on that year or year after year we are calculating. If you will see our report of sustainability, you will find that up to 22-23 our reporting has been there. Okay.
Okay.
Of emissions. And I am just showing you as a sample that what we have done is in this manner we have calculated for each refinery. There you have seen this figure also 2635, right?
Right.
This 2635,000 MTCO2 equivalent is the emission.
Right.
Similarly, for Kochi refinery, for Bina refinery, since we have 3 refineries,
Right.
we have pipeline, LPG, retail. Retail means retail depot.
Okay. Okay, sir.
We have not taken retail outlet. We have taken retail depot. You have
Okay.
to always, in these kind of reporting, you also have to define a boundary.
Okay.
Now, these emissions are basically scope 1 and scope 2.
Okay.
This is the combination of both.
Okay.
Okay, I am not taking scope 3.
Okay.
So, emission of retail outlet is out of this boundary as of now.
Okay.
Because there majorly it is only scope 3.
Right.
Right. I have only considered our operating location. Operating location means in case of LPG, it is LPG plant. In case of retail, it is retail depot and installation. In case of INC means direct business. No, direct means industry to industry business.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Then it is lubricant business. Lubricant where blending takes place. Aviation, no, we have at airports, we have our fueling centers.
Right.
International trade is something where we are getting the crude, right? But that will again become, here it is 0 because there it is scope 3.
Right.
Right.
Because
So
you are purchasing from outside.
outside, and that to be on a ship tanker, which, so if any no fuel purchase is there, that will be scope 3 only.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So this is the total emission as Bharat Petroleum we have calculated for the year 1920, which is coming approximately 10.3 MMT, million metric ton carbon dioxide equivalent.
Okay. So
Is this clear?
oh, right, it is clear, sir.
It is something like the easy way that you built up, no? You built up one profit, small profit because of this thing. Then slowly you built up the whole exercise. And then
Right.
you say, now finally, now this is the total figure which has come.
Consolidation of all the figures.
All the figures, yes. And now here this will not be useful. Now another thing that comes up is, we have to know, I am just relating now what we are doing now.
Right.
Nothing else. No, basically our calculation and accounting has been done. Okay.
Right.
But now I am showing now what we are doing further. I hope it will be useful for you. Some 2-3 slides are there which I'll show you.
Of course, for ECG reporting and all kind of things, this table is required.
Right. So what we are saying is, this is the emission. Now we said, we have declared we are going to be net zero by 2040, scope 1, 2. Now you understand what is scope 1, scope 2. You also understand what is the emission.
Right.
What we said is, in the beginning at 1920, we have emissions at 10.3 MMT, which we are going to increase up to 16.4. But when we are going to take various initiatives like green hydrogen, renewable energy, biofuel, then it will come down to 0 by 2040.
2040.
Okay. You can see the graphs, right?
Right.
And these are the basic levers which we are going to use it. One is renewable energy, green hydrogen, carbon capture storage, bio-CNG, power storage, offset. So these are the various methods by which this is the amount of emission which we are going to abate.
Right.
With each initiative. Let's say renewable will cut down 3,300
Right.
MTCO2, green hydrogen 2,000, right? So this is how we are going to cut down our emissions, and the amount of capex which will be required is around 90,000 CR to 150,000 CR.
Right, sir.
Okay, so we are expecting by 2040 we are going to spend around 1 lakh crore.
So this report which you are saying that by 2040 which we propose to do that, so you need to give the details in your ESG reporting how you are going to achieve this kind of thing.
Exactly.
How you are going to achieve this
We may not give our ESG report, but we have made our own internal report where we have not given all that detail. But in our ESG report, we will only, as a summary, we will report.
Right.
We will not go to brass tacks. We'll detailed as summary, but we have a brass tack. No, each item has been calculated.
Okay.
You agree with me, na?
Right, sir. Right.
Okay. Right. Now, this is what I am showing. Here, no, one more. There are two things, major two things. I said scope 1, scope 2. Now, what we compare is normally scope 1 is around 90%, scope 2 is around 10%.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Here, another thing you see in oil companies, 97% is from refinery, 3% is from marketing we use.
Right.
Correct?
Correct, sir.
To see this figure, so out of 10.3, 99% is basically from 3 refineries and very small quantities from locations.
For marketing.
Marketing business units. What is marketing business unit? LPG plant, retail depot, lubricant blending, pipeline, aviation. Okay.
Right.
They may be small numbers, but actual emission is very low.
Okay. Sir.
This is our roadmap. We have created every 5 years the amount of money which we are going to put in each of the initiative we are going to take under renewable energy, CCUS, green hydrogen, bio-CNG and offset.
So have
These
you,
are figures, no, right now you don't get into that. Ultimate figure is coming as around 1 lakh crore.
okay.
Okay. Now coming to marketing views, no, not much is there to be said. Okay, I'll come down to scope 3 emissions.
Okay, sir.
Scope 1, scope 2, no, from my end, no, I have given that all that gist and data and summary also
Right.
with respect to our company only.
Correct, sir.
I mean, in the same fashion, you can calculate any company, no, because the number of fuels what we use, the number of energy items what we use may be lower in case of any other company than us,
Okay. Okay.
right? And then if we take scope 3, no, you can see this here. There are 15 categories. Purchase goods and services. That means when we purchase crude, right?
Okay.
So the emission which is used, which is there in the generation of crude is basically that is what we are supposed to calculate, which is known as LCA, life
LCA.
cycle assessment of a crude.
Okay.
Through that, let's say I have purchased 1,000 tons of crude, right? I have purchased 1,000 liters of diesel. So that 2 point, unless I burn it, so that 2.1 generation of diesel is requiring generation of diesel. It is not burning of diesel.
It is generation of diesel. Right.
It is generation of diesel. So that generation of diesel, what is the amount of no emission which it takes place? So this purchase goods and services is basically calculated on the BPCL crude, how much crude we have taken, and
Right.
its LCA is generating how much emission. So what
Correct.
we found is here that this value is only 8 to 10% of our total scope 3 emissions. Okay. Now capital goods. Capital goods means assets what we purchase, fuel and energy. The amount of fuel and energy what is being used in terms of transportation reported by BPCL in annual survey. Yes, this is what we have reported.
Right.
Upstream transportation means when we are transporting no material into our refinery.
Material into your refinery.
Into our
Inbound
refinery.
logistics.
That
Inbound
means
transportation.
when we use fuel in the ships to get the crude,
Right.
waste generated in operation, the amount of emissions due to generation of waste, business travel, employee commuting, upstream leased assets, downstream transportation, processing of sold product and use of sold product, right? So you look at the category number 11. Basically, when we have seen here, we find that due to sold product, this I'll show you here. See, this is scope 3 emission, which is one, sorry.
Which I was reflecting, which I was commenting.
I'll tell you. See, this scope 3 emission is here. This is 127 mmTPA. If you see this graph, we have calculated scope 3 emissions. This is around 126 mmTPA, right?
Right.
Now, here if you look at, because of use
More than
of
90%.
sold product, it is more than 90% of the total emission when we have calculated scope 3 emissions.
Okay.
Okay, now you see the percentage of the total scope 3 emissions with these 15 categories. So what you find is, in company like us, the major emissions are two. One is basically purchase of goods, that means crude, and second major is use of sold product.
Right.
Right. So even if we ignore category 1, okay. So majorly means as per guideline, it is important to report on category 11. All others you can ignore for the time being.
Okay.
For making scope 3 as net zero. Okay. But if we take category number 1 and 11, then 99% we report it with respect to the total emission.
Correct, sir. Correct.
Right now? So we can ignore 1%. You will see here, if you see this graph, what you find is Then 91% is basically use of sold products. Around 5% is purchase of goods and services. So this is how this is coming out. So in general, the guidelines means there are general accepted guidelines which are known as SBTI, Science Based Target, CDP, or DGSI, or
Right.
The people, those who are in in Globe or in UN, those who are generating guidelines say that any company which is reporting on scope 3, if he reports on use of sold product, that is more than sufficient.
Acha, okay. Because it is more than 90% of the
90%.
right.
Okay, so this I have shown you, and no, this I will leave it. Okay. So basically, scope 3 emissions, which I have told you is with respect to the use of sold product, and major action. Major action, if you ask me, we as company, or normally, every energy company is today taking into reduction of scope 3 emissions. How? We are using biofuel. We are using ethanol and putting into petrol. So petrol is going as a use of sold product, cutting down scope 3 emissions. Okay. We are laying pipeline. Laying of pipeline, what it does? It actually reduces the transportation through trucks or railways.
Right. Correct, sir.
Ultimately, it is cutting down what? Scope 3 emissions. Right. We are using EV charging. It is cutting down what? Petrol, diesel. Now what it is cutting down? Use of sold product. Am I correct?
Right, sir.
We are using CNG or CBG. Okay. One, it is a cleaner fuel, and second, it is no cutting. If I am using compressed biogas, then it is using as a biogas or a biofuel. Again, it is reducing consumption of petrol, diesel.
Petrol, diesel, right, sir. And I believe all of the petrol pumps and diesel pumps, they can put up solar power also.
They are putting up solar power. Now, just for your sake of information, solar power, whatever you do, let's say if you are using 1 kilowatt of solar, 1
Right.
kilowatt of you are consuming, you just assume you are consuming 1 kilowatt of energy per day.
Right.
Then only 20% of energy you can use it through solar.
Okay.
Understood? That means only greening what you can do is 0.20%, 80% will be from the grid only.
Green only. Okay.
From the grid, it is only 20% you are using green energy from solar, 80% is from grid, which is through thermal.
Okay.
Now, to make it more greener, it is always considered that solar and wind combination hybrid connection is required to be taken, which can make your energy green by 80%.
80%. Okay.
Okay. So
Solar
a
and
single solar, which you are putting on your rooftop, etc. Maximum you can do is only 20% of your requirement, because sun comes out only for 4 to 6 hours, average in a year.
Right. Correct, sir. So green hydrogen is available, sir, nowadays? Is available commercially?
Shall we close the presentation and then come for the questions?
Right, sir.
Shall I close?
Right.
Then I'll come out with all your questions.
I feel Ruchar Thakur can take the questions, please.
Yes.
You asked me one question about green hydrogen. Now, green hydrogen is something which we are generating it through water by using electrolyzer. Now, you remember your old days in your school and colleges, when what we used to do is electrolyzer, we used to generate hydrogen,
Right.
in a lab, or by
Right.
breaking water, we used to generate hydrogen. Now, that was a chemical reaction. Here, no, by water, if you break water, Okay, if you pass heavy electricity into water, then you can break it, and water will only generate hydrogen and oxygen because there
Right.
is no carbon there. Correct.
Hmm.
That is
Right.
why the breaking of water through electrolyzer without using this gray electricity, right,
Okay.
is
Hmm.
considered to be green hydrogen. If you are using green electricity, it will be green hydrogen. If you are using gray electricity, it will be gray hydrogen.
Okay.
Hydrogen also has number of colors, various colors. It can be pink hydrogen, yellow hydrogen, green hydrogen, so many.
So based upon how much emissions they are being produced during
Not that.
their
How
production.
you are taking power.
Okay.
Depending on the kind of power which you are taking, no, accordingly the hydrogen is being named. If it is nuclear power, it can be pink. If it is gray hydrogen, it green power, it is green.
Okay.
Right. So it basically depends on the kind of power
Okay.
by which you are actually generating hydrogen. No, refineries, they are using SMR process, steam methane reforming.
Acha,
Right.
methane reforming.
It is basically methane reforming through steam, which they do, and then that hydrogen which gets generated is also known as gray hydrogen. Now, hydrogen is used in refinery for what? Hydrogen is used to reduce sulfur, right? Today
Okay.
we are selling what fuel? BS4. Now, you have seen on the vehicles, now we are selling BS4 vehicles
Ha ha
or
ha ha.
BS6 fuel.
Okay. Okay.
We are selling BS6 fuel, that means Bharat Standard 6. Typically, it is on the values of sulfur. As of now, the sulfur is only 10 ppm, which is globally best. India is one of the country which is selling globally best fuel,
Okay.
globally best clean fuel with low sulfur.
Hmm.
Okay. Even
Very
in US or other European countries, we are selling only BS5. Right. Earlier it was BS4, where the sulfur percentage was 50 ppm. So this hydrogen which you are generating in refinery, what you do? You actually know this hydrogen. You are making a reaction with the sulfur to create hydrogen sulfide and then evaporate, then release in the air.
okay, sir.
Okay. I think from my
Sir, may
end,
I ask Rucha to take some question?
I am ready to take some questions. No, from my end, I am finished. I don't.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very insightful session. We will just quickly take up some questions received from the audience. So the first question is, sir, when will market-based emissions be included in BRSR?
When market-based emissions are now slightly tricky and difficult to calculate. Rucha, that is one
Mm-hmm.
of the reason why people are only always looking for operation-based emissions. Because operation is something which is within my control, which is within the control of the industry. I
Mm-hmm.
can control my unit, I can control my refinery, I can control my depot. But in case of market, no, or let's say in case of finance-based emissions, there the lot of controversy can always come in. That is why
Mm-hmm.
industries always look for operation-based emissions instead of market.
Okay, okay. I hope the question is answered. Uh, second question is from someone stating that can you please elaborate fugitive emissions?
The fugitive emissions take place. No, there are when there is evaporation of product. Okay, when there is release of product, or I can give you one example. Let's say I am storing petrol in a big tank, right? And then there is a small evaporation, or no, this evaporation takes place from the tank, and there is a loss, small amount of loss, which
Hmm.
can be either breathing loss or because of the evaporation of petrol, that loss is there. That is considered to be fugitive loss. But typically, this fugitive loss emissions, as per IPCC, are negligible. Okay, so not to be considered as zero. But in case of exploration, when you are actually taking out crude, lot of gases are coming out. Those are no heavy in number, so
Hmm.
those gases can be taken as fugitive emissions.
Okay,
Right.
perfect.
any loss of product, any product which comes out which leaks and then evaporates is basically fugitive.
Yeah. So basically, without using it, without coming into the process of using it, it gets evaporated.
So it is not burning. It is actually no evaporating. It is
Evaporated.
leaking. Either
Yeah.
there will be evaporation, loss, or leak.
Okay. It means like whenever there are, say, distilleries are there, wine making companies and beer making companies, beer or sugar mills are there. There's a smell around those.
Not that Gupta ji. That is
अच्छा,
the smell of molasses. No, जब
okay.
आप किसी गन्ने को सड़ाओगे तो उसकी स्मेल आएगी.
अच्छा,
Hmm.
Correct? Na? That is not that. See, I'll give you in a simple form. आपने पेट्रोल को गिलास में लिया
right.
और गिलास में थोड़ी देर रखा है, उसमें उड़ने लगा, वेपराइजेशन होगी.
Hmm.
Okay.
So that vapor which is going out into the atmosphere is basically fugitive emission.
Vegetables. Okay.
वो
Okay.
उड़ गया, वो उड़ रहा है. अभी ये तो एक ग्लास हुआ. नाउ हमारे पास टैंक है डिपो
हाँ
में.
जी.
वी गॉट 1000 KL का टैंक और 10,000 KL का टैंक, राइट. उस टैंक के ऊपर तो एक कवर लगा है, so it does not allow it to go वेपर. वो तो वेपर लॉस होने नहीं देता है.
Right.
But when the product goes up and down, there is a breathing loss or there is a vaporization loss.
Right.
तो
Right.
कुछ loss तो होता है,
Right.
because hydrocarbon has got it's natural. It is in the nature of the hydrocarbon that it evaporates. It is not like water.
Okay.
वाटर भी इवेपोरेट होता है पर हाइड्रोकार्बन ज्यादा होता है
ज्यादा evaporate होता है. Right.
ना. दूसरा एक तरीका, पाइप से जा रहा है, पाइप में लीक हो गया,
Right.
करेक्ट. सो और रिफाइनरी में पाइप से वहां से कुछ लीकेज हो रहा है. एलपीजी है, एलपीजी वेपराइज होकर लीक हो रही है, राइट. सो ऑल दैट कॉम्बिनेशन इज अ फ्यूजिटिव एमिशन. But the
Got it.
amount of emissions which take place is so low that it can be considered as zero or negligible because it is not burning.
Yeah. Hmm.
जल नहीं रहा है ये.
Correct.
अगर ये क्वांटिटी जलती तो इसकी वैल्यू आती.
Got it,
ठीक है.
sir. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir. So, sir, moving to the next question. Someone has asked, how do we quantify the emissions from the burning of fuel sold by BPCL to public?
I have given you na that scope 3 use of sold products. Scope 3 I have given
Yes,
127
it's
million
covered in
MT.
that. Yes. Correct, sir. I think it is already
The other
answered.
thing what you can tell him is that no, he can see our sustainability report of 2023 which is available on public portal. There we have given this figure for
Yes.
the
Okay.
year for last 3 years.
Sir, I remember in the initial slides you had given the a pictorial graph of how scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions are calculated. In that, someone has asked how investment generate emissions.
How
There was one.
investment? See, it is something like due to investment in capex with respect to market value, right? Anything
Okay.
which is getting generated because of that should also be considered as scope 3 emission.
Got it. Got it, sir.
There are categories. I told you, na. See, it is not that when I purchase crude, there is emission. Crude itself has got emission.
Correct.
It is not burning of crude only. See, when I said there is evaporation of product. So evaporation of that product itself has got certain emission. Similarly, crude has got emission, but burning of crude also has emission.
Got it, sir.
It is iron. Assume iron is there. When I purchase iron, for generation of iron, there is an emission.
Right.
When you generate power, there is an emission. When you generate iron, that iron mill has some emission which is related to that product, which comes out because of the life cycle assessment of that iron.
Correct.
Okay, so scope 3 actually considers that if I consume iron, cement, brick, anything, जो भी मैं खरीदता हूँ, परचेज करता हूँ, इवन मशीनरी, वो कहता है जो मशीनरी में कैपेक्स लगा उसकी वजह से जो मशीन खरीदने में एमिशन हुआ, that is also part of your scope 3 emission.
Got it. Got it. Got it, sir. Sir, thank you so much for addressing the questions of the audience. And it was highly technical, though very insightful session. So we really thank you. We thank you again, sir. Thank you so much for the.
Thank you very much. I hope no people would have understood. But still,
Thank you,
if you have
Ashish
any
ji.
questions, no, you are always welcome.
Sure,
I
sir.
will be happy to answer your questions anytime.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Sure, sir.
ठीक है सर and गुप्ता जी.
Thank you very much, sir. मैं तो
Thank
I
you,
was
sir.
trying to evaluate BRSR reports and all kind of marking were there, and we were at a loss to how to know how to calculate GHG. Now I know
Sir,
how to get them,
sir,
how to calculate them, how to verify them, and all kind of things, sir.
sir, I'll tell you one very simple formula.
Right. Tell me, sir.
See, you let others to do it. You don't get into that.
Yes, it is a greenfield project, sir. Nobody knows actually. Means we have to convey to second generation how to calculate.
I know, I agree with you. See, these are slightly tricky, but good thing is these are still voluntary, right? It is not, it does not have any value, money into it. Because
There
what
is
you
value,
people
sir.
do is basically calculate money. So don't worry about the small variation here and there. It does not make a difference.
Right, sir. Right.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Ah,
much for the wonderful session. So,
great.
tech support,